In today's video, we're going to take a look at a different knife than usual here on the channel. That's a dive knife from the folks at Schrade, the WR3, coming up on Survival on Purpose. Welcome back to Survival on Purpose. My name's Brian. Thanks for joining me. So the folks at Schrade were kind enough to send me one of their WR3 dive knives so I could show it to you. And let me just say right up front, I'm not a diver. I've never been scuba diving and or skin diving, although I've always wanted to. Don't ask me why I haven't. So I know inevitably I'll be getting some comments like, why are you reviewing a dive knife if you're not a diver? Well, so let me just answer that right now. A, because it's a knife and I think it's cool. And B, because it's a knife and I think it's cool. So there we go. So actually, I went on a kayak trip with the Boy Scouts this year, and one of our guides had it wasn't this knife, but it was a similar, like a dive style knife with a blunt tip on it like this. He had it strapped on the swimming vest right here, a little smaller than this. And I thought, you know what, that's pretty cool. So when I got back in town, I got a hold of Schrade and asked them if they would send me one of these because I just thought it was cool. So they actually did. They also sent me another model. We'll look at another video. But I got to tell you, I think this is a really cool knife for several reasons. And it's a good knife to have with you, even if you're not diving. You know, we weren't diving, we were on kayaks, but it's still a very useful knife to have. And I think it's got some cool features, so I thought we'd take a look at it here. So that's my initial disclaimer, so to speak. So let me take you down to the old, well actually we're not in our extremely sophisticated outdoor studio, so take you down to the old rock top here. We'll talk about the specs of this knife, and then we'll get to doing some of that dive knife stuff. Okay, so once again, this is the Schrade WR3 Water Rat Dive Knife. The Water Rat features a 4.7 inch or 11.9 centimeter blunt point double-edged blade of 7CR17 MOV stainless steel with a 4.7 inch or 11.9 centimeter handle length. If you can do the math, that adds up to a 9.4 inch or 23.8 centimeter overall length. The knife weighs just 4 ounces. You have to do your own math on the grams. The knife features a blunt tip, a partially serrated edge with a line cutter, and a second fine edge with a partial saw. Has a rat tail full tang with a lanyard hole and a green phosphorant TPR molded handle. The knife comes with a black snap-in polypropylene sheath with a drain hole and options for leg, vest, or belt carry. The Amazon price for this knife is under $19. Okay, well that's some of the specs and technical details of this WR3 from the folks at Schrade. So take a closer look at the sheath. I want to show you a problem that just arose, and then we'll get to doing some of that knife stuff. Okay, so take a closer look at the sheath. I discovered a small problem with the sheath, which actually might turn out to be a big problem with the sheath itself. So this sheath is basically a kind of a molded plastic, maybe polypropylene sheath, and it's got the retention right here. If you can see that little button, and it moves, right? And that engages with a little depression on either side of the handle right here. So what happens is you push this button here, and it moves these two arms, and it's supposed to push this down. There's a little arm on either side. Well, as you can see, a piece of that broke off. I don't know if I dropped it or what happened. It broke off. And the sheath is kind of essentially two pieces, so you can snap it apart. And what happened is it broke on this side and snapped apart. So now when I push this button here, I don't know if you can see up inside there, but really it doesn't do anything. It just misses over here because it's two pieces. For some reason, there's a joint in there, a split right inside there. When you push this, it's supposed to push the other piece. But this side being broken, it doesn't engage now. It just pushes down and slides off. And what happens is it doesn't do anything. So you have to kind of actually, you put the knife in, it engages, and really the only way to disengage it is just to push down on the back a little bit, which basically makes the sheath want to come apart a little bit. So have to say, I think that the sheath could stand a little more work. I thought it was pretty cool to have all this versatility in a sheath, and when it wasn't broken, it was working fine, but I don't even know what I did to break it. If I might have just dropped it or something just now, because it was working fine literally 5 minutes ago. But you know, I think that's if it's that fragile, or if it's that dependent upon everything being perfect, then maybe they need a little redesign on the sheath. So we'll take that aside for a minute. But the knife itself, I gotta say, I think is a really cool knife. Again, I'm not a diver, so I don't have any dive stuff to do, but I do have some stuff here I thought it'd be worth checking out and seeing what we could do. So we've got a line cutter here, and I've got some, I've got these sunglass holders that I guess they got split out on me. So we got some line here. We'll just see how well the line cutter works on that. And all right, it ain't working too good that side, but I would most likely use this anyway. Let's try that. Try the knife itself. The knife itself works just fine. I don't know why you would use that. I just don't like those. I guess it's easy. The theory is you can just catch it and it works real quick. And for a smaller line, it might work okay, but for this one here, it's not doing too good. We'll try again. We got a serrated edge, and I got a feeling the serrated edge is going to just catch on it because it's a braided line, and it's going to catch all those serrations. Try the saw blade here, and this almost everything catches on the serrations. I mean on the wovenness of this little line. So, but with the regular fine edge knife, it cuts fine. So you're gonna be able to cut whatever you need to cut with it, I'm sure. Let's try a piece of strapping. I've got some strapping from like a car, from a hold down. We'll go ahead and try the serration on that. Yeah, serration just wants to grab. Try the little saw blade. The little saw blade works fine. Actually, it works really good. It's a super fine saw, so we'll try that one more time. So that cuts great. And then the just the edge itself, we get it up here in the camera, just a fine edge. It cuts really good too. So all those work well. The serrations are pretty aggressive, so probably if you're trying to cut some rubber or something maybe a little thicker with that, it would work pretty good. The line cutter, I don't know. It looks like it should work fine. It's really sharp and it's got a nice little groove in there. Just never have much luck with these. However, I know this is not a bushcraft knife or a survival knife or anything else, but it's a knife, and if I got a knife and a piece of wood, I'm going to try to do a little bit of carving here. So let's see what we can do with just regular old knife stuff with this. And that is the little saw blade here, and then we got the knife portion here. And what I'm trying to do is get rid of some of this bark. I'm going to see if we can carve us a feather. I know that's almost to the point of ridiculous, but that's what we're going to do anyway. So it's never stopped me before, right? Because if you're canoeing or kayaking and this was your knife, then you might want to have to rely on it for many different tasks. Let's see what we can do now. This is the saw blade, and it actually makes some really, really tiny little curls here, but not doing a really good job of curls. So let's try the regular edge. And this is just an old piece of dead stick down branch that I picked up in the woods over here. Nothing fancy. I don't know what kind of wood it is or anything else. Okay, so we got a little bit of some curls here, not much, but you know where we're going next. I mean, we're going to just go hardcore ridiculous on this, right? Got our Schrade ferro rod here. Let's just see if this thing will strike a ferro rod. Oh yeah, so I think we got some sparks there. I don't know if it's going to work or not. Well, let's just see. Yeah, the wind blowing pretty good here. Not to mention, I wouldn't be trying to strike with all these rocks in the way, but it does. Pretty good job, but we're not going to get a fire going here today. So, Chuck Norris can erase a Sharpie. One thing I seriously like about this knife, not only has it got this cool green handle, but it's very lightweight and it appears to be very well balanced. Now, obviously, we're not at my state-of-the-art testing facility, but sometimes you have to make do. One thing is, this thing has a blunt tip, which what that's good for is if you're in a raft or a kayak or something that you really don't want to puncture, you know, you don't want to have a risk of puncturing something, whether it's a wetsuit or a raft or whatever. It's just a good thing to have, good idea to have a blunt tip, even though those corners are still pretty puncturable. So anyway, without a lot more rambling, I do think it's important to check the balance of this thing, so we're going to do that right now. Okay, so that was some quick balance testing. I kind of got ran off by some folks that wanted to go fishing, so there you go. That's what happens when you film in a state park, right? But hey, that's what the lake's for, right? So anyway, that was a quick look at the WR3 dive knife, water rat, from the folks at Schrade. And gotta say, I like this knife. I think it's a very functional, capable knife. If you need a knife with a blunt tip on it that's got a wide variety of cutting surfaces, it's very lightweight. I like this easily identifiable, easy to find, luminescent green handle. Real quick story about that. I went tubing down the upper Chattahoochee River in Helen, Georgia last weekend with the Boy Scouts. If you're around here, you know where that is. If not, Google it up. It's a pretty cool place. Anyway, and my phone was in a waterproof yellow case, a Cedo case. I've done a review of it on here. Anyway, long story short, the water was really low. We had to drag our tubes a couple of places. And one place we had to drag our tubes over was a little rapids. It was probably about, you know, this tall with a pretty big rushing water over it. But it was, anyway, I had to get out and drag my tube over. About 50 foot downstream, I realized that, oh man, my phone is gone. Wow, I don't know, if you ever lost your phone like in the river, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I got so much information, so many contacts, business, personal, pictures, photos, everything on my phone, right? I go back looking, and literally I'm watching all this water pouring down, and I see a gleam of, think is yellow. I reach down and bam, there's my phone. So the point being that bright colors really do help. I will point out though, by the way, that when I got back to the truck, I realized that I did have my phone, but I did not have my wedding ring. So the phone probably cost more than the wedding ring, but it would be a really close match. I guess the wedding ring might be more easily replaceable. It wasn't the original, it's probably my third one. I've already lost a few of them, but anyway, if it was luminescent green, I might have been able to find it. So, but I digress. Imagine that. Anyway, so if you have a need for a knife with a blunt tip, this is again under 20 bucks. This could be a really good knife for you, except the sheath really needs some work. It was working perfectly fine before it broke, but it broke pretty easily, and maybe I just had maybe it was damaged in shipping and I didn't notice it or something, because it did, that corner broke off of there, and that's really all it took to ruin the entire functionality of the sheath. I mean, it's still usable, but it's definitely not the way it's intended to be. You kind of have to watch that little side pops open there. So, but it's kind of a bummer, because I like this knife, and I really thought I like the whole versatility of the sheath too. So maybe there's a simple fix that Schrade could do for that. But other than the sheath, it's pretty cool. The sheath is kind of almost a deal breaker at this point for me, but it's a cool knife. So anyway, thanks to the folks at Schrade for sending me this so I can show it to you. As always, thank you for watching Survival on Purpose. Thanks for subscribing, for clicking that thumbs up, and for sharing this video with all your friends. And thank you so much for doing all your Amazon shopping through the Survival on Purpose links. survivalonpurpose.com/Amazon. Regular Amazon, regular prices, regular Amazon Prime. But if you go through my links, anything you buy helps benefit the channel just a little bit financially. I really appreciate your support. So, once again, my name's Brian. You're watching Survival on Purpose. Remember, survival's not an accident, so be prepared. I'll see you next time. Survival on Purpose. Wow, that was something big just hit the water over there. So I know inevitably, say that 3 times fast. Must have been a turtle.